everyone and welcome back to our channel. My name's Anne and along with my good friend Wayne we run the Sussex Handmade Soap Company website and we also run this channel. And today we are going to be making glow-in-the-dark alien head bath bombs. What more could you possibly want than a bath bomb that glows in the dark and looks like an alien? If you are a fan of our videos where we do natural soap making with all natural ingredients, this probably isn't going to be the video for you because these are most definitely not all natural. But if you are a fan of the fun, foaming, bubbly bath bombs and bright colours, then stick around because this may well be right up your street. So the first thing I'm going to do today is talk you through what ingredients we have got and what equipment you're going to need to be able to create these bath bombs. The first thing I have is a dehumidifier, and when making bath bombs we find that a dehumidifier really helps. If the humidity is too high then our bath bombs do not work, they activate, they crumble and they just don't work well. And here in the UK for us a dehumidifier is a must. I've turned it off just while I'm doing this intro and then I'm going to turn it right back on when I start making the bath bombs. We purchased ours from Argos and it was about £100. That was a couple of years ago, so it's probably gone up in price since then, but it works really well. The only downside is that it only works in a small room. It is not powerful enough to work in a larger room. So when I'm making bath bombs I am stuck up here in this small little room, which is probably it's less than the size of our gazebo, so it's less than 3 metres by 3 metres, which is quite a small working area, so I'm quite squished in, but other than that, it works well. The second thing that we use for our bath bombs is a stand mixer. We use a KitchenAid. This isn't absolutely essential. If you want to mix by hand, then you certainly can. If you haven't got a stand mixer, we just prefer the stand mixer because it makes things a little bit easier. Then we have got some bicarbonate of soda and we have got 400 grams of bicarbonate of soda and we have got 240 grams of citric acid here. Citric acid and bicarbonate of soda are crucial ingredients for making bath bombs. You cannot make bath bombs without these two ingredients. You could probably make a very simple bath bomb just with these two ingredients, a little bit of water and a little bit of scent, but we do have some added extra ingredients that we personally like to use in our bath bombs. And for us that means 15 grams of SLSA, and this is what makes our bath bombs bubble and foam. There are other ingredients that will give similar results. You could use SLS. We personally don't like using SLS because it is a skin irritant and it's quite harsh, so we've never used that in our bath bombs. You could also use something like SCI powder, which we do use. We used it all the time until recently, and if you saw our last video we have explained why we are now using a little bit of SLSA rather than SCI powder. It's all to do with our manufacturer for SCI introducing palm oil into it. SLSA does also have palm, but we require less SLSA to create our bath bombs than we would SCI, so we want to limit the ingredients with palm that we use, so we are using SLSA for these bath bombs today. We have also got in this little pot here, we have got some grapeseed oil and we have got 5 grams of grapeseed oil. It's a nice lightweight oil, so it shouldn't make our bath bombs too heavy, and it's also going to add just a nice kind of feel to the bath bombs. And because we are using oil, we have also got polysorbate 80. We have also got 5 grams of polysorbate 80. However much oil we use, we match it with an equal amount of polysorbate 80. You may have seen our previous videos where we said we don't use it in our bath bombs. Again, that was when we were using the SCI powder. The reason we didn't use it with the SCI powder is because we used so much SCI in our bath bombs that they actually that worked really well to not leave an oil slick on the bath. The SCI actually helped to counteract the oil, emulsify the oil, and you then don't get the slick on the bath. Because we are using less SLSA, we do include the polysorbate 80 because if we didn't, there is a potential that the oils could kind of separate from the bath bomb and they could float on the water and they could make the bathtub really slippery, which is obviously a safety issue, and I think the safety has got to be the number one priority when you're creating the bath bombs. You want the products to be safe, both in the way they react with your skin, but you also want to ensure that no one's at risk of slipping or hurting themselves after using your bath bombs. So we have included polysorbate 80 in this recipe today. If you want to see our recipe without polysorbate 80, then if I remember, I will link it somewhere up here so you can have a look. We have also got our fragrance in here, and we have got Candy Cane Fragrance by Candle Shack in here today, and we have got 12 grams of fragrance in there, which equates to just under 2% of the total recipe amount. I did have a comment a little while ago saying that candle fragrances are dangerous for use in bath products and we shouldn't be using them. There is a grain of truth in that, and I can understand what the commenter was perhaps thinking or trying to get across. I just want to say that yes, some candle fragrances that are made by candle companies are not safe for use in bath products, but many of them are. And the way to tell that would be to check the IFRA documentation on the specific fragrance that you're interested in using. And that IFRA documentation will actually tell you all the different categories the fragrance can be used in, and it will tell you the safe usage percentage that you can go up to as well. So if you are in doubt, then check an IFRA certificate, and that will tell you if your fragrance is suitable and safe for bath bombs and bath products or not. And if you're in the UK and you are selling, you will know that you do need to get assessments before you can sell. So if you were to submit an assessment with a fragrance oil that wasn't suitable for bath products, then your safety assessor would absolutely pick up on that and they would tell you that it wasn't safe and you would then have to switch it out. So that is the bonus in a way to being assessed here in the UK, is that you know that the products you are creating and that you are selling, not only have you done your due diligence and checked that everything's safe, but that's also been then verified by a cosmetic chemist, so you can be certain that the fragrances you are using in your products are most definitely safe for use in those products. Right, we have also got, do you know what? I showed you this and said it was SLSA. I'm incorrect. This is the SLSA. I picked up the wrong jar. So this is the SLSA. This here is our cream of tartar, in fact, and we use this to actually just help the bath bombs to harden up. And we have got 8 grams of cream of tartar. We don't use a huge amount, but we find it does make a massive difference in actually in hardening our bath bombs and making sure that when they are dry, they are really nice and firm and hard, and they do not easily crumble or break or go soft. We have also got some water, and this is the only thing that I haven't yet weighed out, purely because we only use a small amount, and I didn't want it to evaporate out. It probably wouldn't, but I wasn't sure how long I was going to be talking, and I don't want to risk it evaporating, because with the water we find that the slightest change in amount can really affect how the bath bombs actually perform. So I will be weighing out 9 grams of water for these bath bombs today. 9 grams works for us. It works in the humidity level we work in. The humidifier today is at about 50. I prefer to run with it a little bit lower, sort of around the 45 mark, but it hasn't got down that low yet, so I'm working at 50 today. But we find that about 9 grams of water to these ingredients gives us a bath bomb that doesn't crumble and fall apart, and it also doesn't activate. So 9 grams is the water amount that works for us, but you may find that you need to add a little bit more or a little bit less depending on the environment that you are in. There is no golden rule to how much water you are going to need to add to your bath bombs to make them work for you. That is something that is just going to be down to trial and error. And the last actual ingredient we have got today is this is where the fun's going to come in. These glow-in-the-dark powders from Soak Rochford here in the UK. These are new to me. They only arrived a couple of weeks ago and I've tested them out once. They just look like a little bit of fun, and I saw them and I thought, let's give them a go. They do them in 4 colours. I just purchased the green and the blue because I couldn't afford to really purchase all 4 colours when they were just for a bit of fun. Including the shipping, and I can't remember how much the shipping was, but including the shipping, these 2 packets of glow-in-the-dark colour cost me £25.50. So they are not cheap, but a little does go a long way. And there is 50 grams in each of these. So these are going to be what we're using today to hopefully make our alien heads glow. There is one more ingredient you could add if you wish to, and that would be a little bit of a water-soluble colour, so a water-soluble dye, or a lake if you prefer using lakes. We prefer using dyes, and I did toy with the idea of adding a little bit of green dye into our water, and if I was going to be using the dye, I would add it into the water. It would be in the water already. The reason I'm not adding it is because I had to work out what colour I would have done the aliens, and obviously I would have done them green because aliens are green. Everyone knows aliens are green, aren't they? But then I thought I also wanted to paint some of our aliens blue, and I thought it's not really going to work if the body of the alien is green and then it's got blue on it. So I was like, do you know what? Just having a blue glow-in-the-dark alien and a green glow-in-the-dark alien is going to be enough. They don't need to be coloured as well. But if you want to colour yours, then add a small amount of water-soluble dye into your water before you start mixing everything together. So that is all of our ingredients. We'll be using a little bit of mica as well to paint onto the bath bombs when it comes to painting. But for actual creating, this is what you're going to need. Equipment-wise, we have got our alien head mould. So that is what he's looking like. And we got our mould from Cada Molds. I love Cada Molds. They are based in the US, but they do ship to the UK. It's not especially cheap to get the moulds sent over here, but I love using them. There will be similar moulds you can purchase here in the UK. I like the Cada ones purely because I like the fact they're a little bit different to what you can get here in the UK, and I've always got on really well with them, and actually the shipping is relatively quick once they've been dispatched. They do often have a 2 to 3 wait time on the moulds being printed and sent out to you, but generally I don't mind waiting. And I'm really happy with the quality of their moulds, and they work well for what we want to make, and I get on a lot better with these 3D printed moulds than I do with the little silicone ones or the metal ones. I personally rate the 3D ones absolute top for us. If you are interested in getting some of the Cada molds for yourself, I shall drop the link in the description. That is an affiliate link, so you will get a little bit of money off. I think it's $5 off your first order, and we will also get, I can't remember exactly what it is, if we get points or money or whatever, but we get a small bonus as well for referring you, but that obviously is at no extra cost to you. I shall also drop the link for these glow-in-the-dark powders in the description as well. That's not an affiliate link, that's just me telling you where to purchase these powders in the UK if you want to have a go as well. We have also got the sieve. We are going to need to sieve our bath bomb ingredients today so that they are nice and smooth and not lumpy. And I have also got a mask, and to be honest, it's probably an inadequate mask. When you are working with things like SLSA or SCI powder, it is very important to wear a mask when you are creating, because they are such fine powders that it is easy for them to get airborne, and you can breathe them in and they can damage your lungs. This mask, to be honest, really isn't going to cut it. I would definitely recommend a respirator. Unfortunately, we need a new respirator, so I don't have one with me to wear today, and I wanted to do a video, so I'm going to be wearing this because it's better than nothing, but it's certainly not ideal. I would absolutely say get a respirator if you're going to be working with SLSA or SCI or any fine powder that can get airborne, because you really need to be protecting your lungs and protecting your health when you are making bath bombs. So don't do a me and wear a little mask like this. Treat your lungs with the respect they actually deserve and get yourself a proper respirator. Right, what else do we have? We have got, the basic spoon for tapping the bath bombs out, and we have got just a shot a basic set of scales, because I'm going to weigh out our bath bomb mix, and obviously you're going to need the scales for weighing everything else as well. And that is pretty much everything that you're going to need to create the bath bombs that we are making today. So let's jump in and make some alien heads. I'm going to switch the dehumidifier back on now, and then I'm going to switch to doing a voiceover, because otherwise the dehumidifier makes a loud noise and it's going to be too loud for you guys to actually hear me speaking to you over the top of it, or at the very least it's going to be distracting. So dehumidifier on, hair up, mask on, wash my hands so they're squeaky clean for the making, and then we're going to get going. So the first thing we're going to do is sieve together all of our dry ingredients with the exception of the citric acid, going in first with the bicarbonate of soda. And the reason that we are sieving all our ingredients together is that we want to make sure the bath bombs are nice and smooth, that there's no lumps, and that everything is really nicely combined. The next ingredient is the cream of tartar, and again I'm sieving this in. It can get quite lumpy, which is why we sieve the cream of tartar. Lastly, the SLSA is going in, and I don't sieve this because it's so fine, I just sprinkle it all over the bicarb and cream of tartar. And that is what it is looking like at the moment. Now we pop it onto our KitchenAid. I've popped the guard on as well so it doesn't puff up too much. And my catch is broken, so I need to turn it on at the plug. If I let go of my hand, it will spring into action, so I need to hold the switch off while I plug the machine in, and this is a real pain. And then I'm going to turn it on to a low speed, and then I'm going to add in the water. Pouring the water in a slow, steady stream into the mix. And I give it kind of a minute or so for the water to combine. Next we go in with our oil, our fragrance and our polysorbate. And again I pour this in a slow steady stream down into the mix. And I'm going to give it approximately a minute or so to combine. And then what I actually do is I stop the machine, and as you can see this is what the mix looks like now. And what I tend to do is I take our little fragrance pot, because a lot of the oil does actually collect in the bottom of the pot and I don't want that to go to waste. So I take some of the mix and I just sort of smush it down into the pot, making sure that that fragrance comes out. And this is a really good way of actually making sure that I get all of the fragrance and the oil and the polysorbate out of this little pot, and that we don't end up with any kind of left wasted in the bottom. Also, it cleans out the pot a little and makes it much easier when it comes to washing up. And then it is back to mixing, and as it combines I do turn it up slightly. I'm on about level 6 or 7 on the KitchenAid, and I give it a good sort of 4 or 5 minutes mixing just like this. After 4 or 5 minutes we're going to go in with the citric acid. I add this last just because I find that it makes our bath bombs smoother. And then I turn it up again. We are on about level 8 at the moment, just to make sure it's really well mixed, and I mix the citric in for about a minute or 2. Once everything is combined, we can just kind of brush these excess bits off of the beater paddle. And that is what our mix looks like. Got rid of the mixer now. And before I start making the bath bombs, I just really kind of mix the mix with my hand to make sure there are no unmixed bits, nothing stuck to the base, because sometimes the mix does get a little bit stuck to the base and I need to kind of give it an extra mix by hand. Today the mix has actually worked out really nicely, and I'm always looking for a kind of wet sand consistency with the bath bombs. And I mean that you can squeeze it and it forms a ball, and then when you drop the ball back into the mix, as I will do in a moment, there we go, it holds its shape, but it's also really easy to just kind of break it up again. So you're looking for kind of like a wet sand or a kinetic sand kind of consistency, and that is what works well for our bombs. And now we are going to fill up our mould. I've placed the alien head mould onto the scales. I like our aliens to weigh about 105 grams. That is a good weight for floating for our bombs. And I just carefully fill the mould with 105 grams of the bath bomb mix. Once I've got to 105 grams, I give it a little shake to level it. And then I use my fingers to kind of gently press it down into position. Make sure it's kind of level, make sure it's kind of nicely squished in. And then we get the top of the mould. And we place that onto the bottom two pieces. And then I remove the scales because I do press down now and I don't want to press all my weight onto those scales. And I press down firmly, and I press down really firmly. It's not a gentle press, it's quite a firm press with a lot of my weight going on there, as you can see, just to form the bath bomb. And then what I do is I take my spoon and I just give it a little tap. I say little, it's a fairly firm tap on the top of the mould. Then I turn it over and tap the base as well. And this just helps the bath bombs to release a little bit easier. I then remove the bottom part of the mould. And as you can see, this is now two pieces. And the outer part is slightly shorter than the base. And that means that I just grip it gently like this and press down. And that releases the bath bomb so that I can then turn it out. I don't generally turn out onto my hand for a reason that you shall see in a moment. And there is our alien bath bomb. Now, as I said, I don't generally turn out onto my hands for this reason. They tend to snap when I try and turn them out onto my hands. This is how I do it when I'm not trying to be all clever and show things to the camera. So, fill, press, top of the mould going on, pressing down firmly, tapping to release, then taking the bottom of the mould off, pressing that mould down, and this is how I normally release my bath bombs, which is a much better way, as I'm sure you will see in a moment. I just purely turn them out onto greaseproof paper. There we go, one complete alien that hasn't snapped in half. I'm just going to run through it very quickly, close up once more, mix in, up to 105 grams, a little shake, a press down, top of the mould on, or middle part of the mould on, whatever you want to call it, pressing down firmly, tapping to help it to release on the top and also on the bottom, removing the mould, press down and turn out. And I have now done all 6 of our aliens. The one that snapped in half, because there was no colour or anything, I purely just chucked it back in with the mix, reformed it, turned it out again, and it worked really nicely. Now we're going to leave these to dry for a couple of hours. Normally I leave them overnight, but tonight I just want to kind of get them painted. So a couple of hours to dry, and then we're going to come back and paint them with our mica paint and that glow-in-the-dark colour. So it's been about 3 hours since I made the bath bombs, and I'm now going to have a go at painting them. Normally I leave it kind of 24 hours before painting, but today I'm kind of in a hurry and I just sort of want to get them done because I'm excited to see how they turn out. So to paint, I use mica, which has been diluted in isopropyl alcohol, and that is all I use for my painting. I know some people add polysorbate 80 into their painting. I don't. I just use the micas and the isopropyl alcohol, and I use the 99.9% pure alcohol. And the way that I create my paints, I've done 2 of them already. I'm going to show you me doing the third. I use a ratio of about 10:1 alcohol to mica. So in this one here, I have got 1 gram of mica and I have got 10 grams of the alcohol, just because I think that gives kind of a nice light coating. It's very visible, it's very vibrant, but it's not too thick. So the 10:1 ratio works well for me. The colours I've chosen for our aliens are lime, and these are all from Soposh here in the UK. I shall link them down in the description as well. I've gone with Steely Grey for the eyeballs and the outer edge of the aliens. And for our blue alien, I'm going with Dreamy Aquamarine. So, we'll pop these ones out the way for the moment because I have done them. And I'm going to show you how I mix up my paints. So I take a little pot. These little pots are so useful. We reuse them time and time again. They are from Resonate here in the UK. And I pop my scales to 0.00. And first off, I weigh out the mica into the pot. So for this one, I'm going to go for 1 gram of mica. And I do like to try and be as precise as possible, even when I'm making it for personal use, because it just kind of gets into good habits for when you are selling, and it also makes sure that your products come out consistent. And then I'm going to weigh out 10 grams of the alcohol into the pot. And then all I do is I take my little paintbrush and I give it a good mix so the mica and the alcohol are really well mixed together. And I actually use makeup brushes for my painting. This one, I believe, is meant to be an eyebrow brush. And this one was an eyeshadow brush. Well, it wasn't. It was intended to be an eyeshadow brush. I have never used it as an eyeshadow brush. These were purchased purely for our mica painting. They don't get sort of switched between makeup and mica paints. That would be not good. Yeah, so these are makeup brushes that I purchased for using as little paint brushes, just because I think they're a little bit easier to work with the mica and the bath bombs than actually little paint brushes. I've always found makeup brushes to work really, really well. So that is what I use for my painting. Right. Let's get on to actually painting these aliens. So I'm going to start with painting my little green aliens first. And before I start, I do give my mica alcohol paint a good mix, because the mica has a habit of settling, and you don't want that. You want it all to be mixed really nicely. And then it is just a case of painting on, and it does take a little bit of getting used to when you first start using mica paints. There is definitely a learning curve when it comes to it, and even just learning what is a good kind of thickness for your paint as well. I say the 10:1 ratio works well for me, but you may prefer to work with a slightly different ratio. So mix up the paints and see what works for you. Obviously, if you are selling, you will need to make sure that you are using what is in line with the safety assessment that you have. But other than that, it's all about just having fun, finding out what works for you and going with that. And I always start by just kind of going around the edges, the harder bits. And the first time I ever painted a bath bomb, I swear it took me about an hour to get one little bath bomb done. They are not quick to do, even when you've done them a few times and you kind of get used to it. It's still not hugely quick. And for us, that is where the expense comes in a way. It is more an expense of time when we are creating these bath bombs rather than a monetary expense, because the actual time they take to paint is by far more valuable than the actual cost of the materials required to make them. So I've gone round his little eyeballs now. Well, I've gone round one of them at least. Now we will go round the second one. And this is not the glow-in-the-dark paint. We are going to go over with the glow-in-the-dark paint afterwards. But I just thought that they needed more of a vibrant colour to begin with, because that glow paint should work very well, but it's not quite as vibrant as the actual mica colours. So I thought we would give it a mica colour base and then a kind of top coat of the glow-in-the-dark mica paint, or rather pigment paint. I don't know if it's mica based or not. It is just a pigment. I'm now switching to my slightly bigger brush to fill in the remaining white parts, just because it is so much quicker. And as you can see, I've hardly used any of this mica paint. If you want to save it for another project, you can, but make sure you cover it, because if you don't, then your alcohol will evaporate. And it evaporates fairly quickly as well. I mean, you can be talking sort of a couple of hours and you'll come back to it and you'll need to add in more alcohol because it does evaporate quickly. Right, there we go. Now normally I would move on to the others and do all the green parts first and then all the black parts second, but because I'm showing you guys, I'm going to switch to the black part now. Washing out my brush, but you cannot use water because obviously that will activate your bath bomb. So wash your brush in alcohol. The same isopropyl alcohol that we are using to mix our mica paints is what I use to rinse my brush in. And then I've just got a little piece of kitchen towel that I use to just make sure that brush is nice and clean before switching to a new colour. So now we've got the black, and I don't know if you can see that, I think you can, how much that has separated just from when I weighed it out just a few minutes ago. So again, mixing it in really well. And then I'm going to do the alien eyeballs. And I always think that when you add the eyes in, that's when the actual creation really comes to life. There's so many designs I've tried now and so much fun I've been having doing it as well. But it's always with creatures, once you get the eyes on, it really does bring them to life. There we go. One alien eye. Right, let's get the second one done now. So 2 alien eyes done now, and the last thing I do is I go around the edge with another little bit of black colour. I could do it green and just not worry about edging it, but I actually think giving them all an edge just really helps the design to pop, brings it to life a little bit more. I love the edging. And as you can see, it's only been a couple of hours, but these bath bombs are already so much less fragile than they were when we were making. And they're going to firm up even more overnight. So that mix that we use does give a really nice firm bath bomb. And I can't tell you how excited I am to see how those glow-in-the-dark pigments work with these aliens. In my head, it's amazing. And hopefully it will be in real life too. Not long till we find out. There we go. One little alien bath bomb. Now I'm going to do a blue one, but I'm going to speed up the process because I don't think you guys really want to sit and watch me doing more bath bombs in real time. So we're going to paint one in blue in super speed. So the aliens have been painted with the mica now, and I'm so happy with how they've turned out. I think they are already looking amazing, but obviously we want to give them the glow-in-the-dark aspect too, and this is just regular mica at the moment. So this is where we are now going in with our glow-in-the-dark powders. And I have already mixed them up. I've used a slightly different ratio than I did with the mica. I have used 1.5 grams of the powder to 5 grams of the alcohol. And the reason for that is that these powders felt quite heavy, and when I did the 10:1 ratio, there wasn't a lot of powder to colour. It just looked a little bit weak. So I've gone with 5 grams of alcohol and 1.5 grams of colour. And now all I'm going to do is just give them these here a little top coat of the colour. So I'm going to top coat the blue ones with the blue and the green ones with the green. But I'm going to do that in super speed because you've seen me painting, so it's going to be the same technique but with a different medium. So you don't need to see that again, so let's just go super speedy and get these painted with the glow powder. So here we have 6 completed, painted alien head bath bombs. I am so happy with how they look. I'm so pleased with how they have turned out. But of course, it doesn't end there because we need to see if these actually glow. It does say to charge them in natural light is better than charging them in lamp light. But it's dark outside, which is good for this experiment because it means I can turn out the lights. These lights I use for filming are really bright, so I'm going to bring it right down low over these just for a minute or two to try and charge them up. Then I'm going to turn out the lights and we're going to see how they look. Fingers crossed. Right, I genuinely have not turned off the lights yet, so I've got no idea what is going to happen. I have charged them under this studio light I've been using to do my recording. And now I want to see what happens. So, both the lights in one hand. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Now that's super cool. For a second there I thought they weren't going to do anything, but wow, that is pretty cool. There we go. One alien in green. And one alien in blue. Very, very happy with that result and with my glowy green and blue aliens. The last thing we've got to do, of course, is test them in the bath. So 24 hours later, and it is time for the bathtub test. I've charged both of these up under the lights we've got at home. And we're now going to pop them in and see what happens. I'm going to do 2, one blue, one green. There we go. Let's just do that. And then let's do this. So closer up, there is our green one glowing in the bath, and over here, the blue one. I'm going to end the video here for today because it has been a long one, so we are going to say goodbye now. And we're going to leave our aliens floating away in the tub. Wow, one super strong bit of blue just floating away there. Yeah, very happy with this little experiment today. If you do enjoy our videos, please do hit like. hit subscribe, and we will see you next time for another video. And for those of you that like to know how well they foam, this is the foam that these two aliens are creating. So as well as the glow in the dark aspect, they do create loads of lovely bubbly foam too.